In this video, we're going to show you how to set up the Webworx email in your Outlook if you have a problem with the automatic setup with Outlook. So if you opened Outlook, started to run through the process and you got an error, this is the manual process to enter all of the details correctly. So to start with, we're going to open our control panel. We make sure that Outlook's closed. Open our control panel. You should see a screen like this. If it looks different and you have these options on your screen, simply change the category here, the view by, and change it to either large or small icons. They're both the same options, they just look slightly differently. We're going to choose the mail option. We should see a window that looks like this. Choose email accounts, and we'll get a window here. If we've already got email accounts in the system, they'll show up here. If not, it will be blank like this one. So we're going to add a new email account. Now, in the details, we're going to choose manual setup or additional server types. So this will allow us to enter all of the details that we require. Hit next. Here we're going to choose POP or IMAP because we're setting up an IMAP account. Choose next. These details here are about your mailbox. So your name is basically your display name, what it looks like when you send emails. Today we're just going to use example user, but you would use your name here. The email address is your full email address. So in this case we're using username @exampledomain.com.au, but this would be your name at yourdomain.com.au. The account type, change that to IMAP. It's quite important to do that because you can't change it back later. You need to actually delete the account and re-add it if you add it as a POP. So we're going to choose IMAP there. Now the incoming and the outgoing server are generally always the same with our service, which is mail.yourdomain.com.au. So in this case, we're going to use mail.exampledomain.com.au. And we're going to do the same in the outgoing server, so mail.exampledomain.com.au. The username is always your email address, so it should be exactly the same as what you had up the top there. In this case, we have username @exampledomain.com.au. Just double check your spelling before you proceed. There's one mistake that a lot of people make, is one spelling mistake there will cause you a problem. Now we enter the password. Now this will have either been set up by yourself in your cPanel when you created the account, could have been set up by our support department, or we could have sent you an email that gives you a link to set up your password. But whatever password was set up for your email address, enter that here. Now before we proceed, we're going to go and enter all of the server details, the port numbers, just to make sure that everything's correct. So we're going to go into more settings, go into the outgoing server tab. Now with the Webworx service, you need to pass your username and your password to be able to send emails. So this option must be ticked. So my outgoing server requires authentication and use the same settings as my incoming server. If you don't turn this on, you won't be able to send emails through our system. We'll go to advanced. Now in here we've got our port numbers. Currently these are set up as the default insecure ports. We're going to change it to secure because we actually run SSL certificates on our servers. So change this to SSL TLS and also change the outgoing to SSL TLS. Port 993's been set by default, which is the correct port, but the outgoing port needs to be 465. So before you go any further with these, ensure you've got port 993, SSL TLS, port 465 for your outgoing, and again SSL TLS. You don't need to change any other settings on this screen. Double check before you jump out that you did tick the outgoing server and click OK. Once we're happy with all of our settings, we simply click next. This will then go off and attempt to connect to the incoming server. It'll also send a test email just to be sure that it can actually send emails. Once you've got your 2 ticks and completed, you can close that window. We click finish, and then we can open our Outlook. And once we open Outlook, we'll see that our email address is now in there, and we've got our test emails that we actually sent through setting up the process. And that's all that you need to do. If you have any other issues, please contact support on 1300 554 678, or shoot an email to support@webworx.com.au if you have a working email address.